into the bodies of patients and the hands of doctors right now. What was your impression?
It's a total clash, here, Allison. On one hand, understandably, and I think John made this point very clearly, of course, everybody would love for a therapeutic to get out there and to work. I mean, when I say everyone, I mean everyone on the planet. It wants this something to work at some point. Fact of the matter is, we don't know if hydroxychloroquine works. We don't even know if maybe it works for some people and not others. Could it make some people worse? Small example, this is a medication that seems to suppress your immune system. That's why it works for patients, for example, of autoimmune diseases. Now, if you're somebody who needs a strong immune system because you're elderly and your immune system has not been working well, would you really want to suppress that person's immune system? Probably not. I don't know. Nobody knows. That's sort of the point. And someone who has an overreaction of their immune system to this, maybe it might work. We don't know. You want to do the studies here. Could it be harmful to some people? Possibly. That would be obviously a terrible outcome. We don't know the dosing that should be given. We don't know the duration that should be given. John was quite right in terms of how he characterized the studies. These studies have involved patients with mild disease. Now, why is that important? That's important because, thankfully, most patients do still recover from coronavirus. So if you have two groups, in one group they have mild disease, the other group has mild disease, one group gets the medication, the other group doesn't get the medication, they're both very likely to improve. How do you really make sense of that sort of data, especially when it's a really small trial? Look, I'm trying to give a little bit of the reasoning behind why trials are done. You don't want to harm people. There is a real potential here for that, so that it is not a can't hurt, might help, why not situation. It just isn't. I want there to be a therapy. You want there to be a therapy. John, everybody wants there to be a therapy, but we got to be sure, and it can happen quickly. But why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we actually do the trials?
And who would, everyone's okay with it being this therapy if it's proven to work. But if 200 million people are going to take it for whatever reason,
that's right.
You have to make damn well sure that there aren't side effects or something doesn't go wrong. Jonathan Swan, just quickly, it's rare that you have someone basically just come on and publicly say, yeah, we had that disagreement and this is what it was about. Peter Navarro basically just did that.
Well, I give him credit for not lying. He didn't deny what happened in the room. And I think you saw in your very interesting interview, you got a little taste of what happened in the Situation Room. You got a flavor of the kinds of arguments that Peter Navarro was making in the Situation Room. That was a slice of what was described to me, exactly what you saw play out on CNN, 5-10 minutes ago.
Sanjay, I know that from where you sit as a renowned doctor, of course you want the clinical trials to happen first, but it sounds like they're actually bypassing it. I mean, it sounds like what Peter Navarro just told us was that they all agreed that they are going to hit the national stockpile of the 29 million doses of the hydroxychloroquine, and they are going to surge it into the hot spots. And he told John that doctors in New York are already routinely giving it to patients. So it sounds like they're already bypassing the preferred process that you would like to see.
So some of that is happening, Allison. I mean, I think there's several things that are happening, but being interpreted a little bit differently. First of all, increasing the production, allowing some looser regulations so you can import this medication from other countries, in part is happening because, there is this idea that, look, if it does pan out, we want to be ready. You could make an argument that makes sense. You also want to make sure that people who are legitimately taking this medication are really dependent on it right now, don't go without as a result of what's happening right now. I think that if you talk to doctors within these hospitals, and there are hospitals who have this as part of their protocol for patients who have later stage illness of the COVID-19, they'll say, look, we're still conducting this as a trial. We're still trying to collect the data here, figure out what dosing to give, what duration. Again, the only studies have really been done in mild cases, and yet the protocols are in severe cases because they don't know whether or not to give it to someone who has a mild case. The last thing these doctors want to do is make somebody worse as a result of this. A mild case that would have likely, and when I say likely, I mean 8 times out of 10 likely resolved on its own, to give something that potentially could make that person worse is a real problem. And again, let me just explain this. This is an immunosuppressant drug. That's how they believe it might work. Suppress the immune system. Why would you suppress the immune system as an infection? Well, it might make sense if the immune system is overreacting. That could be happening in a population of patients, and it could be that overreaction of the immune system that could be making people critically ill and even causing death. But in someone who doesn't have a overreacting immune system, it could make things worse. Again, I don't want to dive too much into the weeds here, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of what clinicians are trying to debate, what they're trying to figure out. Am I dealing with an overreactive immune system? Am I dealing with a virus that is replicating and causing multiple system organ failure? What exactly is happening here? I have no other options. Maybe I should just try this. Perhaps that is happening sometimes in the form of a clinical trial. But this is a confusing thing to just basically say, can hurt, might help, why not? That's not true. It could hurt in certain situations.
Please dive into the science of it, Sanjay. We like hearing about the science of it. The science is what matters here, so thank you for that. Just Sanjay, Peter Navarro did ask a question. He asked me, would you want it if you got COVID-19 and were in the hospital? My answer was I would talk to my doctor. What would your answer be?
Well, I am a doctor, and I wouldn't know there's not the data to support that right now. I would basically, if I was to have a conversation with the family, I would say that, look, we don't have a lot of great options. This is something that obviously we have, you've heard a lot of news about lately. It is something we can try, but I have no guarantees. What I would say, though, is that if the person had a heart rhythm problem, if the person had a kidney problem, if the person had a liver problem, if I had evidence that, look, suppressing their immune system could actually make them worse, I'd probably advise them no. So and to some extent, it is a case-by-case basis, but there are things to me, just as a clinician, that I would start to actually dive down with these patients as opposed to just saying across the board, yes, give it to anybody with COVID-19. I absolutely wouldn't say that. And frankly, as you might imagine, John, all I do is talk to clinicians and scientists around the country. That is what I hear. He was quoting somebody today, William Grace. I didn't know who this doctor was. I just looked him up during your interview, and apparently he used to work at Lenox Hill. I don't think he works there anymore. There's a lot of opinions out there, John. I think we got to give a little bit of, talk about Anthony Fauci in this regard. This guy's been doing this for, a long time. He's the head of the infectious disease sort of, community in this country. I don't think that we should be sort of dismissing him the way he seems to have just been dismissed as just another opinion on the matter here. He's been looking into this.
It's a great point, Sanjay. Sanjay, thanks very much. We're going to get back to you in a little bit. Jonathan Swan, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for your